Okay, everybody, let's not spend too much time just sitting here waiting for the music to go. Hi, howdy, welcome y'all. I said we were probably gonna do a little bit of elite. I did quite a bit this morning during the Frontier Unlocked and all of that, so we are like well on our way to colonization. But yeah, hi. It's gonna be a chill stream. I don't know if you can tell or not, but my voice is just like shot. And I don't think it was necessarily from streaming Final Fantasy Rebirth all that much. We obviously have done quite a bit this week, and we will continue to do more this weekend. You know, I thought maybe I overdid it after the last stream, but it turns out no, I'm just sick. So we're gonna fight through this as best as I can. I really make no guarantees on really most anything in terms of the vibe or the energy tonight. I'm just hacking up my lungs, man. It's pretty bad. Like, thankfully it's not like not too bad. I mean, it's a cold is really all it is. So, you know, we'll just take it easy tonight. But yeah, welcome to the Trailblazers, everybody. You know, we haven't done Elite Dangerous in quite a while, so this will be, you know, this is probably one of the biggest updates that they have done in quite a while. The Power Play 2.0 was obviously a good first step, but it was kind of iterating on some things that had already existed in the game for quite some time. This is expanding the bubble, and oh buddy is in a thing. So like I said, I have already I've chosen my colony. We are building a Coriolis starport, or an Oculus starport, I'm sorry. So it's a lot, to say the least. It's a lot. There are a lot of numbers and that kind of thing that needs to be adjusted, and I am sure they're going to be adjusting it, and we're going to talk about that over the course of today. But overall, it's pretty much what I expected. Just a matter of order. I have to work tomorrow in the morning, and then depending on how I feel, I think we'll probably do some more Rebirth tomorrow evening. We'll just have to wait and see. It's one of those shifts, instead of the old Clopener. I mean, you guys that work retail know the Clopener, right? This is like the opposite. I'm opening tomorrow and then closing on Friday. So there's like a big gap between the 2 days that's going to let me sleep in. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see. I think it's really going to come down to how I'm feeling tomorrow. It's going to be one of those days. I haven't had to do it in a while, but yeah, I think tomorrow's definitely a wear your mask to work kind of day. Unless you know, all of you guys, all of you wonderful people want this gunk that I've got. But you know, it should be chill. We'll just see how the voice holds up after working a shift, and we'll kind of go from there, because the Rebirth streams have been a lot of fun. It's obviously a game that has taken me by storm way more than normal, but we've also been doing like 7-hour streams of them. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see how I'm feeling. Hopefully this will start clearing up after another good night of sleep, but we'll just kind of play that by ear. But so far, for this weekend on the docket will be more Final Fantasy Rebirth. So, you know, keep an eye out for it. It's just a matter of which day it's going to be. But that being said, you know, that's really all that's on the agenda anytime soon. You know, we might hop in for some more Elite. This is going to take me a long time to build this starport. But, you know, it might be something that we can hop in for these like short guerrilla streams every now and then. But that being said, Trailblazers, hi. So I hope you guys are having fun with it. You know, it's kind of what I expected it to be. You know, leading up to this, I kind of had a few ideas in terms of what to expect. And, you know, I haven't really talked about it on stream too much, but I know on my Discord and everything, I've been like yelling at people, just absolutely screaming to like, hey guys, do the trade community goal right now. We need those mega ships. And it was very, very funny, because almost any time that is brought up, whether it was in my Discord, whether you were reading it on Reddit about the CG, the number one thing that you heard more than anything else was, It's not profitable enough. Why would I do this? There's no profit. And I'm sitting here trying to tell people, you're going to want those mega ships. And then they just come back and it's like, there's no profit. Why would I want the mega ships? Well, now you know why you want the mega ships. The system for Trailblazers is essentially what I thought it would be. It's essentially the same thing as the post-Thargoid recovery state, where you have to rebuild settlements after flowers have attacked. If you guys were there for like Jameson Memorial and Soul, you probably remember it. But the thing is, I think everyone complaining about the profit from the community goal did not participate in rebuilding Jameson. If you did, you definitely remember, because the engineer was down and like you couldn't use the engineer in Jameson's Memorial and all of this other stuff until you hauled a bunch of things to the stations and turned it in, and it was a lot of stuff. And you know, I did quite a bit of that, so I kind of knew what to expect. And I think I'm the only one in my Discord that did, because the only thing that I ever heard about the community goal was profits. And yeah, now you kind of understand why. If you have never done any of those settlement rebuilding things, it's essentially what they used to baseline the colonization efforts. It's a huge list of a lot of different commodities, and there's like thousands of each that you need, right? And that is why you want the mega ships. I think people are realizing it now. I think people are finally coming around to it, because yeah, when you have everyone in the bubble that's playing the game trying to get very, very specific commodities, it runs out really fast, right? You end up having some troubles, right? And that's kind of our current state right now. It's really not too bad. Most of the stations that I've been in for like the basic things like steel and aluminum, if you can find a good station, I mean, the good stations supply hundreds of thousands, if not millions of them. But then there are things like the CMM composites. And people have been yelling enough on the official forums on Reddit, I mean, you name it, and I think they're very well aware of it. They've already made some adjustments to the regen rate to them, but it's still not enough. So I'm thinking they're banking on a lot of this coming down to the mega ships. So the mega ships are probably going to be, I would assume, like the rescue mega ships, right? The rescue mega ship for the Thargoid stuff, hey, you go there, you can buy all of your AXI gear, right? This will be, I would assume, the same thing, except they're going to supply a lot of the materials that we need. So the CMM composite thing, I am guessing, is going to be handled very, very handedly by the mega ships, which is why I kept yelling at people, hey, do the community goal, stop worrying about your profits, you're going to want them. Right? So we'll just see how it goes. That's kind of where I'm at. You know, it was partially my fault as well for deciding to just go ahead and build an Oculus starport just right off the bat. It's not something that I can't do. I am more than comfortable hauling that much over the course of a month. It's just really the supply more than anything else. But if you have not hopped in yet, you know, here's your new thing. And so your system colonization, it works two different ways, really. The primary faction, the main faction of the starport you are buying from, is one of the factions that will be in your new system, right? And then if you're part of a squadron that is pledged to a player-made faction, that will be another one of the factions moving into the system. So it is possible to have two different player-made factions moving in, depending on where you're buying. In my case, I just went with a system that is already owned by my faction. So far in my system, us froggies, we're the only ones that are in my colonized area. But you know, if you support a couple, it is possible to kind of split them, right? So you go to the port that you want to buy from. It has a 15 light year range right now. They buffed it a little bit from the previous things that they kept talking about, but it should be 15 now. I've heard mixed things. It could be yet another thing that's still kind of spotty, right? And yeah, you'll have your system colonization person right here, right? I have already obviously claimed raw 654. So if you want to help build the station, it's kind of out there. It's a little bit out there, but it is a really, really nice system. So that is, there's a lot of options. There's all kinds of stuff. Okay. So, you know, you just choose what you want. If you have not claimed before, this will pop up with something kind of similar to the little stronghold bubbles around power play. And yeah, it'll just show you which systems are in range of the station that you're at. You choose one, it'll bring up a list and show you what you can build there. Smaller stations and outposts obviously take fewer materials. Tier 3 starports and, you know, Orbises and Corioluses and all of that, they take a lot more. So you just choose what you want to plop down. You go through all of your options there. It's very short. It's very quick and easy. And then, yeah, it puts down a beacon. So what you would normally do, and we'll be going to my system here in a second to so I can kind of show you what's up with it. I don't know why you're doing this. There we go. So you go to your system, and then there's a new thing on your ship. I've seen a lot of people asking, where's the colonization suite? It's already on your ship. So it would be the SC suite down here. So, you know, you just undo your data link scan or whatever you happen to be doing. Put on the C suite. It does not take up any cargo space or anything like that. So it's already on there. It's just like scanning FSS stuff, right? And yeah, once you actually go into your system, it will show you where you need to deploy your nav beacon. It's been a little spotty for some people. I don't know if it's a bug or if it's just people not knowing how close you got to get or what. I had to get pretty close. Like, it's like going to a nav beacon. Like, there's a set place that you got to go. You just go there and use your SC suite, right? I had to get pretty close to it, like within 3 kilometers. And I think maybe that's why some people are having issues, is that they're trying to launch it from so far away. But as with nav beacons and really just in general with a lot of things, just get close. Just get as close as you can, and try it before giving up on it. I did not have any issues. Once I got within range of like 3 kilometers, 2 kilometers, whatever it happened to be, it shoots out like a limpet, and it just yeets itself to whatever the beacon point happens to be, right? Then after that, yeah, you get your colonization megaship moving in, your colonization carrier. Now, here's another thing that I think people have been kind of confused about. The initial launch, and this may change, it could be another one of those things with feedback that they're going to be adjusting. The colonization megaship does not deploy at the beacon. It shows up somewhere else in your system. You do not get to pick currently where your first station is going to be built. You will be able to eventually, but you don't get to pick the first spot. So yeah, once you've deployed the beacon and the countdown timer starts, it takes like 3 minutes, 6 minutes, something like that, for the colonization megaship to come in. Just find it on your nav panel. It'll be elsewhere in the system. I highly recommend making sure when you do it, your first system or two, I would recommend not choosing one that has, secondary stars way the hell out there, because you could end up getting placed like 18,000 light seconds away, right? But yeah, it'll show up elsewhere in your system. So if you want to go and watch it come in, which I think is why people are getting kind of frustrated with it, they wanted to watch it come in. Yeah, it does not deploy at the beacon. So, it's elsewhere. So like I've got my system colonization beacon right here. I think most of the time that should, like the initial beacon point should be somewhere close to the primary star. And then after that, it's just wherever the system decides to place your new port, right? And then yeah, after that, it's just let the games begin, right? So you'll have a big list of items that you need to bring. Right now, I've been kind of loading my carrier with a lot of stuff. It definitely helps to have a carrier. I found for the grand majority of my materials, It really hasn't been too hard finding most things somewhere within just one jump away. 1 or 2 jumps. I could have gotten lucky. I don't know. There are a couple of things that I will have to travel farther out for, like food cartridges and stuff, but you know, those are much lower demand. It's really the steel and metals that I think is the big one. Like I said, I'm building an Oculus starport, which is absolutely gigantic. You know, I've got a month to do it, which is really not a problem. I've got a lot of free time. You know, we can do this all day. I would not recommend it if you are limited on time. Build an outpost first, if you do have limited amounts of time to play. But yeah, the first one you build does have a 1-month timer. So a lot of people have decided, you know, let's just go ahead and build just a small little outpost first, just to get it up and running and get the timer locked down, and then you can worry about the big stations later, right? That way you can just kind of do the big stations on your own time. But you know, I think there's so many people that have started with these big stations, and especially for it being the quote-unquote beta phase, you know, they've got to adjust the numbers a little bit, I think, on some of these things. Mostly the CMM composites. The others really are not too bad. But there's literally no way to build a big station right now. There's straight up, if you took every CMM composite in the bubble right now, it would not even touch the bar for how many you need. It's like 51,000 of those things. Right, which seems to be not great. But everything else is pretty standard hauling. If you've done the post-Thargoid recovery, you know what to expect. You've hauled a ton of this stuff before. If you have never done them, it's a lot. It's just you're gonna be sitting in your ship. You're gonna be sitting here for a long time, just looking at the same thing over and over again. But it does help if you've got a carrier. You know, you load that up a little bit at a time. Kind of go from there, and yeah, just peck away at it. I mean, I'm already at like 6% or something like that. Like I was just mindlessly hauling stuff at max capacity during the entire unlocked, basically since the server started. You know, everything's been pretty smooth overall. The fleet carrier jump times have been, you know, long as expected, but I think I've really only had one snake this entire time, and it was a new one. It was like a scarlet asp or something like that. I haven't seen that one before. But yeah, everything else has been running like surprisingly well. So you shouldn't have too many issues with with load in or anything like that. It's just a lot of it. But yeah, this is the colonization ship. They're pretty big. They're pretty cool looking. They're not all that much different from an FC. Just a little bit design on the head and on the bulkhead, right? But yeah, once you get on it, there's going to be your big list. It's nice and convenient because you can transfer all. And the other big thing is you do get paid for hauling to your own stuff. Like the fleet carrier system colonization ship is paying you for the commodities. Like the initial cost is 25 million. So if you're like brand new to the game, it might be a bit much. But like if you played for more than like 2 minutes, that's 25 million is nothing, right? I have already made that back just from building this thing, right? Like it's not like it's selling at like 4 times the galactic average or something like that. So yeah, just hauling aluminum is like 2.5 million a pop, and I've done who knows how many hauls of that, right? So yeah, it seems like cost is not a factor. It's really just time more than anything else. You know, I think some of these bigger starports are kind of made with the idea in mind to have like a whole squadron or something do it. But you can do it solo. It's not going to be fun. You got to be like a crazy streamer and VTuber like I am. But it's doable. It's just not very interesting, right? You know, everything else on this list is really not that bad. I mean, you look at 65,000 steel and you're like, holy shit. But honestly, I mean, if you're just mindlessly hauling, like it is a lot of runs, but it's taking me If you know, if I was just going back and forth straight from here to the system that I'm picking up in, it takes me what, 7 to 10 minutes per trip. Like, it's really not that bad. If I'm hauling on my carrier, then, you know, it's whatever the fleet carrier time is. And then hauling it back from there, which shouldn't be too bad. So it's definitely doable. I mean, again, you have a month. Right now, the only concern, I think, for a lot of people is just how they're going to handle the CMM composites. They up the regen rate of them, but it's still, like, none of the bases that sell it have a very high cap. So it's still, like, a max of 300 at a time if people have let it, like, sit there for a bit, right? So we really just have to hope that the mega ships they're deploying have a lot of them available, and I think that's going to solve a lot of issues. But everything else on here, I mean, you look at the really big hauls, 65,000, 37,000, you know, 38. Initially this was like 50. I've already done that much just in aluminum. You look at that and it's kind of intimidating, but I mean, you spread that over the course of a month if you're really focused on it. Everything else is small. I mean, look at only 52 medical diagnostics, the 49 like non-lethal weapons. Like, everything else is just 1 or 2 trips and you're done. It's really just the big things, right? Outside of that, though, I mean, it's really not too bad. It's just time, really. That's all it is. The CMMs are the big one. The insulating membranes, if you can find quite a few of those out and about, I'd probably go ahead and pick those up as fast as you can, because those are kind of low stock everywhere, but you also don't need as many of them either. Like, I'm really surprised they didn't match the CMM composites to like what the insulating membranes need. It was like 1600, something like that. So like, it's a fair amount, but it's doable. Like, if the CMM composites were 1600 to 2000 for a big starport like this, I don't think it would be that bad. I really don't know what they were thinking looking at this and going, yeah, 51,000 of these things sounds fine. Right? Okay. But, you know, aside from that, you know, there's a few frustrations with it. Mainly the fact that when you go to a market board or commodity board, these are not tagged like mission items are. So I wouldn't be surprised if they add a way to like flag these so you know what exactly you need to do. However, there is a way to actually see. So when you go to your gal map here, right, there's a couple ways to do it. You can either go directly to the system map of whatever system you're colonizing, or you can go up here to my colonies, and that just kind of makes it easy to find if you're having to go off the beaten path a little bit, right, and just click view system map, right. When you get in here, this shows you all of the potential build locations, right? So you can see this is a nice system. I'm excited to get in here. All of these are like metal rich and stuff. I might be able to build an asteroid base a little bit later on once we get the first one built. But then when you click on your actual system colonization ship here on the system map, it should bring up your list. And you can do this from anywhere. So if you are sitting in the middle of a port and you don't know which items you need, go to the system map of whatever you're colonizing, find your colonization ship and just click on it, and you'll have your nice list. It's not nearly as convenient, obviously, as being able to flag things on the commodity market. I really hope that they do add that just for convenience sake. But if you don't mind going through a few extra steps, you can see what exactly you're going to need through the system map itself. This is the system colonization ship thing over here for the individual ones, and on the left side for like the big views, it's just architect view over here. But yeah, we've got a lot of stuff going on, which is kind of cool. And yeah, after that is just hauling. You know, we'll just have to wait and see what exactly they're going to be doing for the mega ships, what kind of numbers they're going to be adjusting. Like I said, I honestly do not think 90% of it is really that bad, considering you have a month. If you've got the free time, yes, you can build a orbital starport. Like, it's definitely a lot. But you know, if you don't have time, you have the option for the outpost. But you know, the CMM composites, I think, are just really the big thing up in the air. But again, I think that'll be solved by the mega ships that I have been yelling at people to start doing since before they even like released this. Basically, since the community goal started, I said you're gonna want the mega ships. Yeah, but my profits is not that great. And trust me, if you had done Thargoid recovery, you would have known. You would have known. This is what happens when people who don't play parts of the game have opinions about parts of the game, I guess. But outside of that, you know, the unlocked, it looked really good. Like, I'm gonna have fun with colonization. We're gonna get as much of this done as I can over the course of, you know, over the course of the month. I don't think it'll be all too nasty. But the other stuff seemed really good. Like, you know, you should have seen me in Discord when they announced the medium Gutamaya. You know, I'm not sure what to think about the Corsair. You've heard me on stream, God knows how many times now, right? About medium Gutamayas and how much I just really want one, right? And sure enough, we're finally getting one. But the design is definitely different than I thought, but it is kind of growing on me. I mean, the more that I think about it, I'm only really paying attention to like what the cockpit looks like, right? And it looks like it'll have something pretty similar to the Courier. So should be nice and fancy. You know, it looks like a big toucan. When I think of Gutamaya, I think of the, you know, the big round and sleek curves. So it's obviously a little different than that. It's a little different. But it is growing on me the more that I think about it. I think it definitely looks a lot better deployed, like when it's landed, from the screenshots that they showed than the Mandalay does. Mandalay looks kind of weird. This is a little bit closer to the ground, a little bit more of an even spread than having the big chicken legs, right? But yeah, I think I'm gonna like it quite a bit. I mean, it's not like they really had to sell me on it. It's a medium Gutamaya. I'm buying it. Like, there's not even a question about it. But it does make me curious what the other three are going to be. I really did not expect that many new ships. I'm curious how they're going to go because they already have a lot of balance issues with their ships. But like, I also don't think it's that bad. I mean, unless you were doing PvP, which I do not give a shit about, right? I don't care about that at all. There's really not a whole lot of like, there's not a ton of competition in it. And so like the balance of the ships is kind of whatever. It's more like fly what you want to fly. But it would be nice to see them take the older ships and add some kind of engineering to it that lets them handle the SCO drives a little bit better. Because right now, like, there's really not a whole lot of reason to use the older ships aside from like really edge cases like what we've got here. Like, obviously I'm in just a massive cutter to do my hauling, right? But yeah, you know, introducing new ships is going to be, you know, more balanced stuff. There's going to be a lot of questions about, you know, why would you use the older ships when these new ones are available? And I think that's kind of valid. There's definitely some balancing issues, but, you know, in the grand scheme of things, like, this isn't, we're not parsing savage raids or anything like that for competition here. So it's like, you know, the balance is kind of whatever. I still use a lot of my older ships quite a bit, so you know, we'll just have to wait and see. We'll have to see what's in the docket. I think new ships is ultimately a good thing, balance issues, you know, notwithstanding. You know, that's what people play for. We want to play and look at pretty ships. I think that's really what it wants to come down. We want to be immersed in space and fly things that look cool and feel cool to fly. And I'm glad that they have really kind of turned around the past, or variants of the same is fine. Yeah, and if you stand outside on a quiet night, you can hear the words in the wind. Panther Clipper. Right. But yeah, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if we see another Python or something like that. You know, I think one of them will probably be a new Saud-Kruger. You know, now that they have announced finally the Gutamaya medium, Saud-Kruger is really just kind of that weird edge case and not a lot of use for a lot of them. But the people that like the passenger stuff, like me, they are beautiful ships, and I wouldn't mind seeing another passenger ship. A medium Saud-Kruger would be kind of cool, right? But But yeah, ultimately, I think new ships are going to be good. Just a net good for the game. You know, balance is going to be balance, whatever. But people want new ships, so I am very glad that they have really kind of brought the focus back to that. Really seem to be putting a lot of development back into Elite Dangerous. You know, I started last December. So, well, I guess it's been a year and a half now. Whatever December of 23 was, I guess. I'm losing track of time now. But you know, I from my understanding is that they weren't really putting a whole lot back into it, and it seems like they've kind of come back around and been like, oh hey, we actually still make money from this game. We should probably pay attention to it. I mean, just in general, the fact that this is going to be the fact that this was a Kickstarter game and it's lasted this long, like, I know there's always going to be complaints about it, and people like to really like kind of neg on FDev, right? But I mean, when you really think about it, I can only think of a handful of Kickstarter games that ever even really got completed at this kind of budget, let alone have lasted, you know, 10 years now. So, you know, I think it's kind of impressive in its own right. This is not going to be good. I don't have my shields on. It's fine. Don't worry about it. So yeah, you know, it's nice to see that they're coming back around. Corsair is going to be fun with medium. Yeah, that's going to be wild. Size 7 thrusters on a medium. Just, you know, just lean back in your seat, boys. We're going for a ride. I'm excited. I am very excited. You know, like I said, the design is growing on me. When they first showed that screenshot, I think I barked out loud. I was just like laughing at it. It's like, really? The toucan? But the more that I look at it, the more I'm kind of really liking it. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, ultimately, I'm going to be, you know, looking at the cockpit more than anything else. The other big thing is, like, they announced the Vanguards thing. I don't know as much about that. I think it'll be interesting. Doesn't sound like it's going to be quite as, like, big of a deal for some players as, like, power play and obviously the colonization is done. But kind of the way that they explained it, it kind of makes sense, right? Like, being able to fund a giant Vanguard bank and then bankroll your own missions and objectives. You know, our Discord was kind of wondering, like, we're a pretty big squadron, right? We're a very big old squadron, and we were kind of looking at it as like, what does this? They keep saying this is like the spiritual successor to squadrons, but like, what's the deal? What use would we have for this? But as they kind of explained it, it made a lot of sense. You know, for individual squadrons, the Vanguard seemed like it'll be a nice way to have, like, just a guild bank and be able to help your new squadron members out. But the more I was thinking about it, was like, you know, this game is kind of unique in that it has so many different player communities that are not necessarily part of the same squadron. So, like, you got the Pilots Trade Network, you got AXI, you got the Fleet Carrier Owners Club, like all of these big player networks, but they're not necessarily part of the same squadron or part of the same power play faction or anything like that. But they have collective things they want to do, which is very unique to this. You know, I play a lot of MMOs. It's something that is kind of special to Elite and not really something quite like anything else I've ever seen in any MMO. I've seen MMOs try it, but they've never really been as successful on the scale that Elites have been. So, you know, the more that they explained it, I think it'll be interesting. I don't know if it's really anything that, you know, I would do. Yeah, like Eve. Yeah, sorta. So it's kind of like, I'm not entirely sure it's entirely something we're going to take advantage of all that much, but I think it will be very cool for people that are active in those kind of player-made networks. So yeah, it's kind of nice. And, you know, it is interesting that we have never really had a way to really just kind of share things between friends, you know, whether that's squadron members or whatnot. I think it'll make things a lot easier, because right now, like, say you've got someone brand new to the game, or someone coming back after a long time. You know, our squadron does a lot of like AFK wing missions that we can turn in for money, right? So like someone will have a bunch of bounties they got to turn in, and then we just post in Discord like, hey, does anyone need money? Log on in and turn this in with us, and then you'll get the bounty money, right? But it's kind of awkward, right? Like you got to wait for them to log in, and you know, they got to be in open, and you know, you gotta wrangle your way, you know, to sharing the missions and all of that. It's doable, but it's very awkward. And I think the Vanguards is going to be like a way to streamline that kind of thing, just to, you know, just to help people share amongst each other in a way that that they don't that they can do now, but it's just a lot of work, right? So it'll be nice. I'm curious to see how that's gonna go. You know, the past few updates that they've had, I think have kind of surprised people. I think people have been negative and hesitant and critical of FDEF for so long, and I think, you know, given all of the bugs that are still existent in Power Play, some of that is warranted. But I think overall, I think you know, the last few updates they've done have been really surprisingly fleshed out and kind of impressive. So, you know, we'll just have to see if Vanguards kind of follows through on it. And, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff they are not mentioning, but yeah, I think it could be kind of cool. I don't know if it's something I'll do personally, but yeah, I could see people having fun with it. You know, it's nice. I've noticed, you know, the past year or so, they've been really good about paying attention to those big community groups, like, right? Like, they've done things and made things canon based on what players have been doing, which I guess used to be par for the course, and then they kind of stopped it for a little bit, but now they're kind of bringing it back. Like the AXI team, you know, taking over the system where the Proteus wave started, right? And then the devs actually made it canon, and like that area is now free of Thargoids and stuff. It was completely player run. They just started on their Discord and had a bunch of pilots go in just for the fun of it. But yeah, the team noticed and made it canon. Or like everything that was happening with with the exploration CG going on lockdown. You know, things like that. You know, sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's a little wilder, right? Currently in one of the best Merc squadrons. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, that's what it's for, right? You know, for groups like that, like, you know, I don't know, I don't quite know if you're in really one of the really the best, but you know, we won't worry about that. We'll not ruffle feathers here. But no, I mean, yeah, that's exactly what it's for, right? Is just you know, people that have similar styles but don't necessarily want to do exactly the same thing. But they'll still have the opportunity to do things. And yeah, you know, if they can keep up with really kind of paying attention to what the community is just kind of doing on its own and kind of making that canon again. I am curious, and I think a lot of other people are kind of curious, if Vanguards do come out and with colonization happening, are they going to reopen applications for player-made factions? Like that's the other thing, is like they shut that down a little bit ago, but like it seems like maybe they can bring it back. Like they shut it down, like they shut down player-made faction applications because like there just wasn't any more space for it, right? Like the bubble was basically full. They were running out of spaces to like make player-made factions native without stepping on toes of ones that already existed. So it's like, you know, what are we gonna do now? Are they gonna reopen apps? You know, I think the game is still small enough that I don't know if it'll necessarily be a big deal. But, you know, there are a lot of factions and stuff out there that are like one person, right? It's like one person holding, like lighting the candle, right? So, I mean, you know, you do have that kind of stuff to worry about. And I wouldn't mind seeing them like reopen apps at some point. Once we've expanded a little bit. once, you know, once we've gotten out there a little bit. But yeah. But what else they have in store, who knows? I mean, my dream is still just a nice graphical overhaul. Like, that's still, I think, probably my wish list item. Is, you know, just some new physics and particle effects for while you're out exploring and that kind of thing. Have a little bit more interaction with black holes and, you know, pulsars and that kind of stuff. You know, things that don't necessarily have to interact with, like, the physics of flying your ship and stuff, but just, you know, make things look a little bit nicer. Give it a little bit more interaction. Because, you know, when you've been exploring as long as I have, it does get kind of samey after a while, and it does get kind of disappointing to kind of, you know, run into a really neat system, and then the bodies just, like, don't interact all that much, or, you know, they kind of look the same. So I wouldn't mind seeing a graphical overhaul, as long as it doesn't mess with things like, you know, the Jolly Green Giants. You know, we want to keep those in the game. But yeah, I would like to see, like, more interesting tales, or have, like, those binary systems just do something that looks kind of cool next to each other, right? But yeah, aside from that, I think the game is in a really good spot. I think a lot of people were kind of wondering how things were going to happen after 2024 was a pretty good year for Elite. You know, it's had some bugs and it's had its issues, but it was also a lot of new content, and, you know, they followed through on the grand majority of it, and it seems like they've got a really big roadmap for this year. So, you know, it's a good time to get back into the game for sure. It's just, you know, we'll just have to wait and see what those extra features are going to be. Outside of that, like, it's kind of like we're kind of running out of things that I think would even be possible in the game engine, right? Like, they keep saying new features, but what can that really mean at this point? Like, I know everyone's like, oh, atmosphere planets. Like, nah, I don't think that's gonna happen. You know, that's No Man's Sky's realm. It would be that kind of thing. Would just be, you would almost need another DLC for it, with the amount of work it would take to proc gen atmospheres and, like, actual like environments on those atmospheric planets, right? You know, being able to land on an Earth, like, I'm not saying it can't be done. It's just, it's a lot more work than I think people really understand when they complain about it. Ship interiors, who knows? You know, we'll see. Third person for ground on foot. Yeah. You know, third person might be kind of neat. I'm kind of surprised that they don't have that option. I've actually been doing some on foot stuff, which is, I never thought I would see the day, but I'm actually kind of liking it. I mean, it's really, it's nothing new, I don't think. The hardest thing is just learning your keybinds, but I'm enjoying it. I've been doing, like, settlement reactivations and some PGS stuff and that kind of thing. That I've had a lot more fun with it than I thought I did. I mean, obviously, if I really want to do an FPS, I'll just play Black Ops or Marvel Rivals or something. But you know, it's serviceable. And yeah, third person might be kind of interesting. It is kind of weird that they have all of these options for arcs and stuff that you don't ever really get to see. It's kind of like the Overwatch problem, right? Like, everyone's spending money on those skins, but you don't ever really get to see them. So, like, yeah, it'd be kind of nice. And yeah, you know, the SRV thing, I don't know. I don't know if they'll ever really fix that, but, you know, I think they could probably do a little bit to make it a little bit easier if you do get motion sickness. Like, I don't get too much motion sickness from games, but, you know, I'm kind of with you on the SRV stuff, because, like, so many planets you land on are just kind of dusty, and, like, your SRV just kind of, like, spins all over the place on those dust planets, right? And it's a bit much. It's a bit much. I understand they want it to, you know, immersion and physics and that kind of thing, but, like, you got to remember, like, this is a video game people are playing, and, like, especially with this being such a big one in VR, like, you don't want people getting motion sick playing your game, right? So, you know, there are little things like that, but I don't know if those would really be necessarily, like, big feature kind of things, right? you know, how they've got it listed as like a big quarterly feature update or something like that. But I could see them doing like little things on the back end to kind of help with that kind of stuff over the course of the game. But like in terms of like big features, that I'm not entirely sure about. I could see them eventually finally, just after the demand, after all this time, finally doing ship interiors. I don't know what the point would be, but you know, I think it'd be kind of neat to be able to just hang out on your ship while you're out there. There we go. I am kind of worried about what that would do performance-wise. You know, I will say that is one thing that has been a little bit wilder, is with each of these updates, I am noticing like a little bit of a performance hit, especially inside stations. Really, ever since they did the power play overhaul, I think it was the power play overhaul where they started adjusting some of the new bloom effects. You know, I have noticed a little bit more of an issue inside stations, and especially around other ships. Some of it seems like it might have been network related because it's eased up a little bit as they've gotten some of their network stuff figured out. But there's still a little bit of a performance hit. Odyssey still runs a lot better than it did at release, from what I understand. But you can tell. I mean, you can tell that it's getting a little bit beefier. There's a little bit more it's got to render each time. I am noticing, as you can see up there, you got the FDL flying around. People have noticed that, yes, the NPCs are finally using some of the newer ships and whatnot, and there's a little bit more variety in these stations. So, you know, there are small things like that that aren't necessarily in the patch notes that are definitely noticeable. So it's been kind of nice, you know, docking at some of these big stations and seeing like a Mandalay flying around or an FDL. I haven't done any like CZs or anything like that. So I don't know if that has affected like combat. We have a couple wars going on right now, but I think most of our squadron's not even really paying attention to them at the moment. We're all just kind of busy. But you know, it would be nice if, you know, you start going into some of these wars and CZs and finally start seeing some, you know, Python Mark IIs and stuff. I always thought that was kind of weird that we just really didn't interact with the new ships all that much outside of the ones that we owned. So yeah, there might be some other surprises out there as well. I don't know if we've really paid attention much to power play. I know that they fixed settlement mats outside of power play systems, so if you're doing settlement raids and stuff, they should spawn mats now at settlements. But as far as I can tell, like things like rare mats trading, and like you know, I support Ashling, so our big thing is search and rescue, and we haven't had rescue pods available like since like the first week of power play, right? So they are still the old ships in the CZs. Okay, well that's good to know. You know, I'll be working on this. Normally we're very big on our PGS stuff, but with all of the colonization stuff, I don't know how that's going to affect things in the future. But yeah, you know, they still need to turn on some of the power play things that they turned off, and it's very weird that they haven't, because like Ashling is shut out of literally like half of her big money making and merit making items. So, you know, there's that. I'd like to see those turned on back again, but haven't seen any new ships. Yeah. You know, I've seen a couple like actually docking at the stations. Like I said, I literally, the patch came up today, and that was the first thing that I did was colonization. So I haven't really taken a look at the power play stuff or where we're sitting at with some of the changes that aren't necessarily listed. But yeah, there have been new ships flying around the stations at the very least. I do wonder if we'll finally start seeing them maybe shortly in the future. Maybe for power CZs and stuff. I think it's too early in the week for too many power CZs to be popping up. That's really where I started seeing some of the ships you don't see all that often, like Diamondbacks and FDLs and that kind of thing. At least for CZs, you know. Res sites are kind of like whoever has to come to the party, all are welcome, right? But I'm sure people will find some things. who knows what. The I do like that the data mining community is not quite as big on in Elite as it is in other MMOs. I mean, I'm sure it happens, but like I feel like there actually is a lot of surprises that I don't really know about, just because no one bothers with data mining for the most part, unless you're making some mods and stuff, I guess. You know, Inara got up pretty fast, which was nice to see. So I'm sure there might be a couple of others, like small little things to just kind of add some variety that the people have yet to find or weren't listed in the patch notes. So yeah, we'll just have to see how that goes. Right now, it's just, I think everyone's just kind of focused on building. So who knows what's going to happen with the, once that calms down a bit. I'm sure after this first month, a lot of these systems are going to scuff out. So you might see a lot of people that didn't finish, and you know, it'll be another rush. But I am curious to see like how long people are going to be doing this, because don't forget, like even as frustrating as this is for the first station in your colony, you got to do this for every station you build. It's just you don't have a timer on the other stations. But yeah, if you really want to deck out your colony, you're gonna be doing this a while. You're gonna be doing a lot of hauling. So I think we are gonna see a lot of systems that don't get colonized, even though they were claimed. I think we're gonna have a lot of people that end up giving up on some of them. Some of those claims. I think you're gonna see a lot of stations that are only like one outpost, which is gonna be a little disappointing, but you know, it is what it is. I'm planning on fleshing this out a bit. I am genuinely surprised that they are actually giving us player income for owning a system. I did not expect to see that in the notes, but yeah, when they said you're actually going to get passive income for claiming and building up a system, I was genuinely blown away by that. I never thought I would see that. just given everything that people kind of expect from the game, I really did not expect it. So, you know, maybe that big station mat requirements are really high. Yeah, you're telling me, man. I'm only building the tier 3 Oculus. I don't mind. I mean, you guys can help out if you want. We're in Raw 654, but I'm not expecting it. Like, I'm holding off on the CMMs until the very end. That'll probably be the last thing that I do. Everything else I'll be able to haul on my own just fine. I mean, it's not going to be all that interesting to look at. I'm surprised we've been able to yap this long, just looking at the commodity board and then looking at this, right, back and forth for the past hour. But I mean, this is all doable for me. I've got more than enough free time. I don't mind hauling. I like hauling. But yeah, for a lot of people, I think the outposts are going to be it. But I am curious how much they're actually going to build up once they get that first one built. I mean, it's, you know, we got to be honest, it's not the most engaging thing. It is very much like you got to have a certain mindset for space trucking, right? But I think the kind of surprise that we're getting player income, and it's probably tied to how much you build up a system. You know, I am confident and hopefully we'll be pleasantly surprised. The people will be building up their systems, I think, more than we thought that they were going to. I mean, you're still going to have a lot of systems that are just like one starport and nothing else, and then you know, it's forgotten for the foreseeable future, right? But the player income, I am curious. I know there have been, I saw on Reddit that a couple people have finished their income. Or have finished their first outpost. I have not seen like the player income amounts yet. So I don't know how much income and passive income it is for owning a system yet. And I customize the HUD. EDMHI. I keep forgetting the name of it. I think it's EDMHI. Oh, EDHMUI. EDHMUI. There you go. So yeah, I mean, all of these colors and everything, it's kind of neat. It's just like a JSON file, which is kind of surprising. But yeah, like all of these colors and HUD elements are just a JSON file, and the add-on lets you change all of them, and it's very easy to use. You just go in, you can set your colors, you can set brightness levels and all kinds of stuff. I used one of the default ones. It has like a list of like 100 themes you can use. Yeah, it's a third-party thing. It has like a list of like 100 different themes you can use. So I found one that had like a good baseline that I liked, and then used that, and then started going in and tweaking some of the elements to taste. Yeah. You do need to make sure that that Elite is turned off whenever you use it. I mean, it'll give you a pop-up. The thing just straight up won't run. But it does need to like take a look at some of the JSON files. So just make sure that that you have it turned off when you're trying to do the install. And then yeah, once it's installed, you can actually change things on the fly. Like Elite Dangerous already has a hotkey button to refresh all of the UI elements. So like you can actually play around and change some things to taste while in the game once it's actually got the install done and is hooked in there. But yeah, some are currently broken. I think there's a few things maybe you've seen that are still kind of orange with some of my elements. But for the most part, I was honestly kind of surprised it wasn't more broken. Usually after a big update like this, like I have really 3 big plugins that I use, and usually after a big update, like it takes them a couple days. The PowerPlay 2.0 update, I did not have like my UI for like a solid week after PowerPlay 2.0 came out. But yeah, I'm really just kind of surprised that everything's been running just really well. Like overall, it's been a very, very smooth transition. Both in game, I have not had many crashes. All of my third-party add-ons really have not had too many issues. I mean, obviously, like Inara doesn't have a whole lot listed yet for space colonization, so they'll have to add all of that in. But I mean, it's still up and running, so like you can still, you know, send your data and stuff. But yeah, I use Elite Discovery, Elite Dangerous Discovery, EDD, and that is what lets me upload and track pretty much everything in the game, right? And it will upload it to the site Inara. If you are brand new to the game and you have never been to Inara.cz, INARA.cz, it is like the go-to. It is basically the big player-made database and up-to-date based on what people are uploading. And yeah, Elite Dangerous Discovery is one of those tools that updates. And then I am primarily an explorer. I don't know if you've watched my past streams. Like, we've done some CZs and stuff on the stream just so I can show off things like the Concorde cannon and whatnot. But the grand majority of my time is as an explorer. And for all of my exploration stuff, I use Elite Observatory. And that tracks... It's just really nice. It's just really nice. It pops up whenever I have found something interesting in the system. If you're doing exobiology and scanning plants, it will let you know what you're scanning, how far the distances are between your little colonies that you got to scan. It's just really good. Yeah. Yeah. You came back. Well, welcome back, Commanders 07. Yeah, it's nice to see people coming back. I mean, it's weird because I'm talking about all of this stuff. It's like I'm like some kind of old hat. Like I said, I only started like last year, like last January, December 23. So it's not like I'm like some old hat that knows all of it. It's just I play a lot of games, and especially play a lot of MMOs, right? So like most of this stuff, it's the same thing that we have in other MMOs. Like my main thing that we do here on the channel is Final Fantasy stuff, right? Most of these systems are the same thing that are in other MMOs. It's just got a different, you know, UI to it. is presented a little bit differently. But you know, if you've played other MMOs, like you're probably used to checking databases and market boards and that kind of stuff, and yeah, that kind of thing. So, but yeah, it is nice to see a lot of people joining. Like I held off on this game for so long, right? I held off on this game for so long because I thought it was nothing but combat. Like I thought it was like a hardcore space combat sim, right? And it really wasn't until I saw like pictures of the Collection of Wonders that I was like, oh, it's like an actual space sim. It's not just combat oriented fight nerds like fighting each other the entire time. Now, to be clear, our squadron is like one of the largest. I think we are the largest anarchy squadron. So like I do some combat. I do my bounty hunting and that kind of thing. So like I do that kind of stuff sometimes, and I've got my ships ready to go for it. But yeah, it was really once I saw the full scope of this game and seeing like what the exploration stuff had to it that really kind of got me into it. And yeah, like that's really why I like the exploration stuff. Is I like the screenshots, and I want other people to like kind of not to make the same mistake I did on holding off on this, because I think it really is. It's just such it's a beautiful looking game. It's a great space sim. It's just yeah. I like trying to find the really cool stuff out there to take good screenshots and kind of hopefully get other people into the game. Because I want other people to enjoy this as much as I have. Like I had been craving a good space sim pretty much since the days of Freelancer, right? And just nothing had quite done it. Like I like No Man's Sky, but it's not really like, it's not quite the same, right? Like it's great on the on foot stuff, but then the space stuff is kind of like, you know, it's neat, but it's not really like a sim or anything. It doesn't quite have the space trucking vibe of putting on some CCR and just going out for a while into the black, right? Yeah. Yeah, so I am glad that you guys have come back to the game or have started playing the game, because it is really something special. And that's not to say that it doesn't have its problems or that some of the criticism against DevDev isn't warranted. You know, there's definitely bugs that have been around for a while that haven't gotten fixed and that kind of thing. But overall, just in terms of just pure space immersion, I mean, it really is something kind of special, right? Yeah. Yeah, you know, that's kind of what I used to do here on the channel, and we still do it. I have not done as much on the end game, but if you check my channel, the past few expansions, I'm one of the top red mages on Crystal. So we do a lot of Final Fantasy XIV content, but this expansion I've just kind of eased back on it a lot. I still really enjoy it. Don't get me wrong, FF14 is still my favorite game, but I have eased back on it, so I haven't done as much with Dawn Trail this time around. We'll be picking it up again once 7.2 comes out. But yeah, you know, my old Talking the Red guides and a lot of like the Savage content, we haven't done it as much this time around. We streamed it pretty hardcore through Shadowbringers and Endwalker, and you know, I just couldn't do Party Finder anymore. I just can't do it. But, you know, if enough people want to watch the streams, you know, like and subscribe, and maybe we can get a tea party together, because I still want my tea weapon. And if you watched my old streams with my old static, it was just a lot of living Liquid's ass, and I couldn't do it anymore with Party Finder. But yeah. It's still something we do a lot of, and obviously we are doing a lot of other Final Fantasy content as well. So if you guys do like FF, we're playing through all of the FFs right now. We're up to FF9. That's kind of on the back burner for a little bit because I am also playing through Rebirth right now, and Rebirth has gripped me. It is a vice grip on my soul right now. We will be doing more Rebirth this weekend. Elite, this is kind of a nice yapping game. I don't do I don't do a ton of Elite, just really if I have some things that I want to talk about. This is a very good yapping game. It's a very good Zatsu game, isn't it? But it's not something we do like a ton. But we'll be doing a lot of more FF7 Rebirth through this weekend, and then getting back to FF9 and finishing our complete Final Fantasy playthrough after that. So, you know, I'm a VTuber. You know how it is. We do a little bit of everything. I'm a little sad that I'm missing Monster Hunter Wilds right now. It's just budget-wise, you can't really do it at the moment. So, you know, we'll just have fun doing our own thing until maybe we get a sale or something, because I do want to play Monster Hunter Wilds as well. I really I love Monster Hunter. I might need to invest in a new controller for it too. Mine's playing Rebirth. I don't know if you've been able to tell, but like especially during the piano sections, you can kind of see how badly calibrated it's gotten over the years. And it's just, I've had this thing for like 12 years at this point, so you know it's given me a good life. But I don't know if I'll be able to handle Wilds with how bad the joysticks are like warped and everything. But you know, we do have some other, you know, exciting things coming up on the channel though. You know, right now, I don't know if you guys have noticed, I've finally started using the goals. I'm not big, like I don't harass people for supers or anything like that, but I do have some goals up and running for, you know, long term. I do want to do a Final Fantasy Magic box break when that comes out in June, so we've started some funding for that, and you know, they're kind of fun. We've done some box breaks before here on the channel, and it's not something we do a whole lot of, but I think Pokemon Evolutions, like the people coming into my bookstore have been absolutely insane about it. But it's also kind of lit the fire to get me back into doing that kind of stuff. So, you know, if we can get the funding for that up, we'll buy a couple of the collector boxes for Final Fantasy's MTG set coming out later on, and we'll do some pack breaks on that. We do a little bit of guitar here on the channel. I keep saying, I've said for like the past 3 weeks, we need to do another guitar stream. If you want to hear some just really mid thrash, I could use the practice though. So, you know, we might do that next week at some point once I'm feeling a little bit better and getting over this cold. But yeah, we do a little bit of everything, right? But you know, it's just kind of fun to get in here and yap for Elite, and especially I do like getting in here and at least discussing the news, right? Like the obviously today we had the unlocked and all of that. Anytime 14 has a live letter, we try doing those watch-alongs. I like gaming news. It's always really easy to just kind of talk about it, and Elite's got so much news going on right now that it just makes it really easy. Got to beat P2T, yeah, it was you can, I mean, I think I still have the VODs up from before I became a VTuber. And it was rough. It was rough. Like everyone in there was just really, they were nice guys. But you know, they started right after the big exodus from WoW. And they were all former WoW players that came in the middle of Shadowbringers. And like I said, they were all nice guys. They weren't like your stereotypical WoW nerds. And to be fair, we had our WoW. We've had our WoW era here on the channel before, right? But they were also still kind of stuck in a lot of the play style of WoW. And they were good enough to get into T. But I have a pretty high bar as a red mage, and like I've got a lot of patience. We stared at Living Liquid's ass for probably 2 months, man, and it was just I couldn't do it anymore. It's like we saw Cruise Chaser a couple of times, but I mean 2 months in, and our tanks were still having trouble with the swap on Living Liquid, and it's like I've got patience. I don't mind taking new players through stuff. I don't mind learning with y'all. But at a certain point, it's like, you're holding me back, man. like, it's fine. It would be fine if we had done it, and I had my weapon, and it was just for the sake of like teaching new players. But I can't spend 2 months staring at Living Liquid. I can't stare at those cheeks that long. It's, as nice as that cake is, like I want to be able to see some progress after 2 months. So that's still on the back burner. I would still like to complete T. It's still probably my favorite of all of the ultimate weapons. And the red mage one does look absolutely fantastic. So, you know, if we can end up finding a static, we'll do it again. Savages, you know, I don't know if we'll return to that. We've got 7.2 coming up, which means, you know, we'll have another tier. But, you know, the very end of Endwalker, it kind of broke me a little bit. UCOB for 7 months. Oh, that's rough. And UCOB's like, you know, looking back on it now, UCOB's really not bad. UCOB's very doable, given some of the mechanics they've started introducing since then. You know, it was definitely ultimate worthy when it came out for sure. But to be fair, I still haven't done it yet either. So I mean, I feel you. It's just I just really don't want to. I just can't do Party Finder anymore. It's just too much. I think the last tier of Endwalker just kind of broke me with Party Finder. The Endwalker Savages, it was just like we got through P1. Whichever the ice dude was, I can't remember. I can't remember. I just remember there was like a big split between JP Strat and whatnot. It's all kind of a blur at this point. But yeah, it was just too much. Like I got the first fight done, and that was already so much of a struggle. Like the first fight through Party Finder was just so much, and it was like I just can't do this anymore. It's not like I can't figure it out. It's not like I can't read the guides and get them figured out. But do I really want to look through a bunch of Party Finder groups, get all of this progress done, and then basically not know what I'm getting into the moment one person leaves and we have to start fresh all over again? Like I don't have the mindset for it anymore. If we can get a static together, like, yeah, we'll be doing some Savages and some Ultimates and stuff back here on the channel again. But I'm kind of enjoying the lazy crafter life for Dawn Trail. It's been kind of nice having like money to try and put towards an FC house, right? Like that's the big goal. That's where we're currently at in FF14 is trying to get an FC house. I've got a personal on Balmung. The FC house though, I really want to build a GPO studio, and I really want to have additional rooms available to do stuff with that GPO studio. So that's kind of the current goal. That's really why I haven't streamed it a whole lot lately, is just we haven't won one yet. You know, it's Balmung housing lottery. The housing demo is still turned off. So there's like one medium a week that goes up, and that's really it. And being on Balmung, you kind of know how that is. I think last week there were 700 something entries. So, you know, if they do introduce the scalable interiors for all housing plots, then it might ease up things a little bit. And we'll have that available. Yeah, once I can get an FC house, we'll probably hop back in and do quite a bit of just hanging out and yapping. Just do some Zatsu stuff in the middle of building, right? But that's really why I haven't played it as much lately. It's just been a chill time. You know, for me, I've either got to have things to talk about for the channel, or we've got to have things to do. And, you know, I don't think that sitting and looking at me pressing a bunch of crafting macros is all that entertaining, right? I say as we haul back and forth to back and forth to one system for system colonization. But, you know, we've got things to talk about. You know, if I have things to talk about, you know, we can hop in and yap for a little bit. But I'm very big about making sure that, you know, the stream stays interesting, and that we have topics and that kind of thing. And there just really hasn't been a whole lot to talk about in FF14 lately, so that's kind of why we haven't done a whole lot. But make no mistake, it's still my main game. I still have a Final Fantasy 14 watch, and really want some of those clothes that they put up, the black milk or whatever, but it's like 80 bucks for a shirt, and that's not including the shipping. I just can't do it. I just can't do it. The Uniqlo stuff, that was doable. I like my Mog shirt. When I quit was P8S, yeah. Yeah, it was too much. I think it was P9, maybe. We did most of the first tier with my T static before I ended up leaving. I think maybe it was P9, and that just kind of broke me to Party Finder. Like I said, it's all just kind of a blur at a certain point, right? Like numbers, how does it work? But yeah, you know, we'll get back into it though. But right now, I'm just fully in rebirth mode. It's you know, after the debacle that was FF8. You know, if you didn't know, I ended up FF8 was the first one in our complete Final Fantasy playthrough. FF8 was the first one that I just gave up on. Like, I really went into the project saying, like, we want to complete every mainline Final Fantasy game. But it's been kind of changed after FF8. We had spent probably a solid year on it, and it just wasn't happening. Like, I have enjoyed almost all of the Final Fantasies until we got to 8. And it wasn't a case of like, it's kind of okay, but we can push through it. Like, I just genuinely was not having a good time with FF8 at all. I genuinely disliked that game. And I never thought I would say that about any FF, but I just really did not like it. But after that debacle, like, I don't know, just something with the remakes and Rebirth, it just it's just been like a breath of fresh air having a game that I genuinely just absolutely love playing again, right? Because we haven't had one of those on a while. We've had some games that I think have been kind of fun. I do still really like Marvel Rivals, and I would still probably be playing some Black Ops here on the stream too, but that there's more technical issues with that on why I can't stream it. Like, they're pretty hefty once I get my VTuber model up and running. So yeah, you know, there have been a few that I have really liked that I just have not technically been able to stream. You know, I think it's about time. I think it's about time for my poor old CPU. The graphics card, fine, 3070, that thing's still a beast, but the CPU is just getting a little bit too old to handle some of the new high fidelity stuff, which is also why I'm not as worried about missing out on Monster Hunter Wilds for right now. I'm sure I would have fun. I can play a lot of these games just fine on my own time. It's just once I load my beautiful self here, it gets to be a bit much trying to stream it, right? Yeah, and we are on 9 now, and I do really like 9. Don't get me wrong, I am having a really good time with 9. It's just remake and Rebirth finally hit PC, and to be honest, I did mostly start playing Remake because my real life BFF, every time we get together and we're a couple deep, right? We're a couple deep. He's just like, Weston, you got to tell me what game to play next. You got to tell me. And it's always like Witcher 3 or Mass Effect. Or he keeps telling me, you know, I still never finished Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is odd for him because that's like the original OG was like one of his favorite games growing up. Like, he's got the Cactuar plushie. He was like obsessed with Cloud and had all the fan arts and like all kinds of stuff growing up. And like he just never finished Remake. So I started doing Remake a little bit earlier than I intended, just to give him something to watch, because I know he watches the VODs and he's told me he likes watching the VODs for stuff that he knows that he might not be able to finish on his own. So that's kind of why we started it. And yeah, just playing through Remake again, it just hooked me. But we will get back to FF9 at some point or another. All right. How we feeling? How we doing? I think we're making good time. I need to keep an eye out on how much liquid oxygen I brought in, because I want to make sure that I'm not overfilling it. I've just been kind of vibing, man. We've just been kind of hanging out, right? And I'm not even paying attention, even though I'm hauling some things that I should probably pay attention to, because we should be getting kind of close to the cap. But yeah, it is interesting to see what people are gonna think of all of this. It was just, man, it was just so funny. It's just so, like, I have a very love-hate relationship with the community in this game. Like, you guys, our chat is chill here, right? Like, we know it, you know it. Thanks a ton for coming out. But we're not big on efficiency and spreadsheets here on this channel. Like, that's kind of the whole point of the Talking the Red Mage guides, is how to play at a high level without worrying about spreadsheets. So, you know, it's a little different here. But it was just very, very interesting seeing the lead up to all of this and just people not wanting to do the community goal because it wasn't efficient enough. And just having that experience of rebuilding a lot of stuff post Thargoids and knowing what kind of numbers we were going to look at. Like, I think you could kind of clearly see the divide on Reddit and just various forums between people that have done post Thargoid recovery and people that have not, right? Because like you would have people like me and other people that were talking about the megaships and how important the CG megaships were probably going to be. And just no one listening because the CG wasn't profitable enough. And now that it's here, how's it feel? How's it feel? Because I remember trying to rebuild the engineer at Jameson's. I remember not having access to that engineer whenever I really, really needed it for like 2 weeks after the Thargoids were done. Yeah. Just two carriers squished together. It's kind of a weird looking carrier, right? I kind of dig it. It feels like a big industrial behemoth, but it is kind of weird. It's like the back end and the bulkhead are a little, they are very different styles, aren't they? They are a little wonky. But I'm curious about like what the other ship that they showed off, where that comes into play. Is that for like the additional starports once you got the first one built? Like the big one that looks like a spinning top, right? Like they showed off all the screenshots of that, but I haven't seen it yet. So I assume that's for like smaller ports or for future ports after you get the first one built, because I think that one looks kind of neat. The one that looks like the skeleton of an Oculus port, right? You guys know the one I'm talking about. But yeah, I definitely think it feels like a big industrial undertaking, which I kind of dig. Like, I kind of see some people like clowning on the current Twitch drops, right? With like the keel back and the Type 9 and all that. And they are kind of weird looking paint skins, but I kind of dig them because they do kind of look like the kind of paint that you would see in a lot of old 80s sci-fi stuff, right? The paint looks like the kind of thing you would see from Jodorowsky's Dune, that big book, or like some of the Alien concept art, or Robot Jocks, for the two of us that remember Robot Jocks back in the day. So I kind of dig the paint as being hauler paint, but I have seen a lot of people clowning on it. It is definitely wonky if you are not into a very specific type of like 70s and 80s sci-fi, right? But aside, you know, overall, I think they've really been kind of killing it on a lot of the design stuff. You know, like I said, I think the Corsair looks kind of good. It's growing on me. I was kind of laughing at it when they first revealed it, but it's growing on me a lot. The Mandalay I obviously really like. It does still look a little wonky when it's landed, little chicken legs. But I can kind of see why. Like, as an exploration ship, it's just got so much clearance down there at the bottom, so it's easy to get in and out. Cobra's the Cobra, I guess. I still have never bought any of the Asps or the Cobras because they're weird looking little frisbees, and I hate that. I'm a big fan of like I'm the guy that actually likes flying the Anaconda. I like the big ships. I like ships that look and feel like full-on big carrier trade ships, right? So like the Anaconda is probably my favorite. And I like flying it. You know, the Anaconda, I will still break it out. Even though the Mandalay exists, when I'm doing exploration, I still break out the Anaconda every now and then. And I like the fact that it is big and slow, because it feels like an old British icebreaker. Like if I'm out in the black and I'm exploring and really blazing new frontiers, I like the fact that it feels like an actual like ship you would be cruising on, right? So yeah, the Type 8 I wasn't initially in love with. I hated the Type 8 design when they initially released it, but it's also grown on me. I do like my Type 8. It's I need to figure out what I'm gonna do with it. Right now it is a core miner. I have that as my core miner, and then I've got a decked out cutter as my laser miner. But I do like the Type 8 design now that I've had a chance to really kind of fly it and get into the mindset of it, right? Yeah, I like the big ships. That's kind of why I was like a little hesitant when I first saw the Corsair design. Like the cutter and the Anaconda are my two favorite ships, far and away. I love the design of them. The cutter looks like just a gorgeous luxury spaceship. It looks like a spaceship. And the Anaconda looks like a ship. It looks like a traditional ship, which I also really like. So like they're my two favorite designs, far and away. So yeah, the Corsair, the toucan look, you know, it took a second, but I'm kind of digging it. It just kind of takes getting into a certain mindset, I think. 600 module storage, yeah, the storage. Oh man, I'm getting some use out of that. In fact, there's probably a couple mods I actually need to bring back over to my carrier. Yeah, you know, I was thinking about this the other day, because I've got a couple people in my Discord. We're a very interesting bunch. We don't always really get along. There's a couple people that just really do not like each other. I don't like a couple people, but we all kind of make it work because we are all froggies on the same lily pad with the same goals, I think, overall, right? But we have a couple people that are like just really, really do not like exploration. Like they don't see the point. Like that is literally the excuse, is they don't see the point. They cannot imagine doing anything in their life, whether it's playing a video game or just living, if it doesn't have a point to it. So they didn't understand the exploration thing. And I was thinking about this the other day, and I think I kind of realized that I think a lot of the people that don't like the exploration, or they don't like the feel of the Anaconda, or whatever it happens to be, they don't see the point to going out to the black for a really long amount of time. I kind of realized, like, wait a second, this is a British game, isn't it? And a lot of players are European, which there's nothing wrong with that, by all means. But I kind of realized that I think the reason I like it so much, and the reason a lot of other people don't, is I don't think in Europe, and I could be wrong about this, like if you're in Europe, feel free to tell me I'm an idiot, by all means. It wouldn't be the first time. But I don't think in Europe the concept of a road trip is really as big as it is, right? Like you guys actually have infrastructure over there. You have public transportation and trains and easy ways to get back and forth. But like aside from like, you know, a few trips around England or something like that, like the concept of like just really long road trips is not really a thing over there. Versus here, you know, growing up in the Midwest of the US, like we never flew anywhere. All of our family vacations were all road trips. It didn't matter how far we were going to go, right? We were driving it. So like you kind of grow up with the mindset of just sitting on the road for a really long time and just learning how to see the sights, which again is, I don't know if that's necessarily like a thing over there, right? Like, as someone who's done Route 66 twice, I love road trips. I love sitting out in the black, even though there's not necessarily a point to it, because you kind of learn how to like look out for the things that are interesting and the little stops and that kind of stuff, right? Or just being alone by yourself for a while and with your thoughts. Yeah. Come join. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like like they're allowed to like the game the way they want to like the game. Like, that's the thing, is like I don't want anyone to get the point here, because I do rail against the quote unquote spreadsheet nerds a lot here on the channel, and it's not because I think it's bad if you like spreadsheets and like efficiency in your games, right? Like, I think people sometimes get the wrong idea about that. Like, that's not why I play the game. But if you do like those things, like, God help us with how much you gotta haul, like, spreadsheets might be the way to go right now, right? It's perfectly fine if you like playing the game with those things. My issue with a lot of it, and especially within our squadron, is that the quote-unquote spreadsheet nerds look down on other people who they don't see as playing efficiently enough. Like, there is a strict right or wrong way to build a ship. There is a strict meta. There is a definitely like a ship that you should be using to do certain types of content, and if you are not using that ship with that build, then you are doing it wrong. That is what I have an issue against. I have no problem if people likes their spreadsheets and like doing things for efficiency, or like, you know, really getting into the weeds with min-maxing and that kind of thing. Like, that's all great. Like, you know, any MMO is going to need those people, because they're the guys that figure out a lot of the under the hood stuff, right? My issue is when you look down on other players for not doing that. It's gatekeeping, yeah. I mean, it is gatekeeping, but it's almost even like, it's not even necessarily gatekeeping in the same way that like backseating is, right? Like, you gotta do things a certain way. VTuber, why? VTuber, why you no press button, right? It's just the way that I see it, especially in simulation games like this, and the way that I see it in my Discord sometimes. It's just such a unique type of gatekeeping. It goes beyond gatekeeping to just straight up being an asshole, right? Like, that's really the only way I can possibly describe it. Is like, they're just being dicks, right? Like, if you are not playing the way that they play, you are playing wrong, and that is what I have an issue against, right? But the point of all of this is, at the end of the day, though, despite all of that, and despite one or two people that are just kind of being dicks to everybody for playing differently, we do a lot of stuff. Like I said, we're a very old, very very infamous faction. If you've been playing this game for a while, you've probably heard of the Diamond Frogs. You probably heard of something awful at some point. But we do a little bit of everything. You know, we very much live the anarchy lifestyle. We are very proud of our BGS play and what we have done, as much as that might be going out the window now that people can just kind of make colonies wherever they want, right? But we are very proud of it. But as an anarchy, we don't really press anything on anyone. That's why I was bringing up the thing with the Merc stuff. I'm sure your leadership and your Merc team, ask them about DF. I'm sure they've heard of them at some point. People have opinions, right, about us, just because we've been here so long. And it was the same way with Eve. I don't know if you remember Goon Swarm. It's a thing, but we don't really enforce it. Like, it's the days of yore where like there were strict things that the squadron had to do, and like there was black ops going on and all kinds of stuff. We have our rivalries in BGS, and we have, you know, people that don't like us, but I mean, everyone's old now. No one has the same amount of time that they used to have. And we don't really enforce a specific type of gameplay. Like, we all try and support, I think, a little bit. Like, we try doing the best that we can for BGS, but it's not like mandatory. We have people that have been out in the black for like years and have not touched the bubble since they went out. You know, if you want to go out and, you know, pledge to someone that's not Anarchy, like I'm pledged to Ashling. I'm like the squadron's token anime feat enjoyer, right? They're not, we don't really care. I think that's one of the things that's kind of important for any big squadron, if you're gonna make it in this game, is to just, you know, have a good variety. And you know, we get by mostly just because our leadership is very smart and have been playing the game for a very long time and know how all of the back-end systems work to an almost scarily scientific degree. But we do a little bit of everything. So like, no one really complains if I yeet myself out and I'm like 40,000 light years away from Seoul at any given point, right? Yeah, like we have our spreadsheet, we have our BGS spreadsheet, and we keep track of all of our systems. And like I said, we're the largest Anarchy squadron. We have a lot of space, and we're very, very good at it and scarily efficient at how well we know how expansions and all that stuff work. But it's not required. From what I understand, it used to be, and a lot of the old hats kind of ended up leaving for the same reason that you ended up, I guess, leaving your first squadron is, you know, you hit a wall. You get, you know, a couple people that know how BGS works that just kind of really wreck your day, and you just kind of stalemate for months on it, and it's just not fun anymore. And I think that's kind of what changed the direction of a lot of what we do. They probably don't like me talking about this. But you know what? They can be mad if they want to be mad. What are they gonna do? Kick me from the squad? Like, I do like 20 CZs a day for them if they want me to. It's fine. It's fine. But yeah, you know, we have our spreadsheets and we have our systems and that kind of thing. But it's not something we're ever gonna really require any of our members to do. It's just too much. You know, I couldn't imagine joining a squadron that really enforces that kind of thing on their players. Not just here, but really any MMO. Like, WoW's 20 years old at this point. We've been through all of this before. We know how those kind of guilds and squadrons work, and they might be powerful for a little bit, but it's not going to take that much, you know, power tripping before people just get burned out. And it seems like Elite is also just development-wise is kind of easing up on a lot of that stuff. Like they're just looking at things that are fun to do, right? They're fun to do. Well, I don't know if staring at the fleet carrier every day like this much is necessarily fun, but they're giving you options, right? Like they understand that the best way to get people involved and sticking with the game is to give them a lot of options on things that they can do to kind of play however they want to play. So, you know, I think that's good, and I think that's good for the longevity of the game. So, you know, we'll see what Vanguards do with it. I'm gonna need more info for like a final verdict on any of that. But yeah, I think it'll be a good thing overall for the game. But yeah, right now I think everyone, you know, we're talking about the next big feature, and this feature only dropped this morning, so you know, let's worry about one thing at a time. Yeah, and that's fair too. You know, if you can find a small group that just really hones in on what they want to do. Like, as long as everyone's having fun with it, then like do your thing. Like, you know, we do a little bit of merc stuff, I guess. Like, one of our leaders, Tommy, he's apparently one of the biggest and one of the best PvPers in the game. I don't touch PvP, so I don't know how any of that works, but I mean, that's what he likes to do. He likes min-maxing, and he likes his spreadsheets and telling people they need specific ships. But, you know, he's also very good at the game and can back it up. So, you know, that's what he likes to do. So if he likes doing that kind of stuff and you guys like doing that kind of stuff, then like, absolutely. And yeah, AX is a lot of fun. I enjoyed my time in AX. I did quite a few Titan runs, and I'm not really kitted out enough to do like solo Cyclopses and stuff. I never did a whole lot with the Guardian site, so I basically just did Titan builds, stuff that I could buy from the rescue ship. But yeah, I mean, you know, there's a lot of similarities between, you know, PvP and AX combat apparently. So yeah, he liked doing that kind of stuff. I like doing that kind of stuff. And, you know, you can always change. If you get bored of merc stuff and your squadron does want to try other things, like, you know, that's fine too. That's the nice thing about the game, is there's just so many options. There's just so many different ways of doing things and so many different things to do. And that's kind of why I chafe so much about there being like one objective truth. Like, even if it is true, like, you guys have seen me do CZs. Like, I don't use flight assists off or anything like that. Like, I keep everything basically assists on. I don't mess with my pips, you know, anything like that. And yet you've seen me here on the streams, if you watch some of the old VODs, like clearing through CZs in 5 minutes. Like, it hasn't hurt my ability to do things at all, right? So like, you have options. If you want to do the min-max thing, you can definitely do it. But I think some people do go a little too hard on it. You know, don't look down on other people for doing things a little bit different. If it gets to the point where it is affecting your ability or their ability to do things in the game, that's a little bit different. Like, at that point, like, if they are asking for advice, you know, there will be a question mark at the end of their sentence. And, you know, at that point, you know, it's fine to start going into the theory craft and min-maxing, but like, they're doing what they want to do, and it's not affecting their gameplay or their ability to get the things done that they want to get done. Like, who cares if they're being inefficient, right? Racing, yeah. You know, it is. I from my understanding, because again, I'm still relatively new. Racing used to be a lot cooler, but I guess Odyssey changed the terrain of how some of that stuff is made, with like the canyons and stuff. But it would be kind of nice to see them bring some of that stuff back. I think the racing community seems like it would be a lot of fun, and they're going to have a lot of fun with the Corsair. But yeah, I guess it's really a lot of people have just been sticking with the courses that they know, because, you know, the game doesn't generate canyons the way that they used to since the Odyssey update. But I think racing would be fun. I've been thinking lately, like, how much do I even have at this point? Because I'm making a fair amount of money doing all this. Yeah, 2.5, and then I've got another 2.5 on the carrier. Like, I've been thinking while doing all of this, like, you know what? Maybe I should buy a Mamba. I still don't have a Mamba. I'm at the point in the game where I've got the money that I like. I have enough ways that I can get more money if I really, really need it. I'm just buying ships because I think they're kind of neat. I think maybe the Mamba might be the next one. I think that would be a lot of fun. I don't know if I would be able to really race in it, but I'll find something to do with it. But it is nice to see that, like, they did add, like, the racing community. Like, they've got your own banners in the game and advertisements and that kind of stuff. It would be nice if with the Corsair, maybe they bring back some of the old terrain gen and give people some new interesting things to look at and new ways to race. All right, but I am excited to, you know, to see what people can do with the colony stuff. You know, it's not quite pure base building in the way that I think a lot of people expected. But it is kind of base building. Like, you can definitely tell with a lot of these systems, like Frontier, like their bread and butter has always been, well, I don't know about always, but it is now, their building simulation games. You know, Planet Coaster, Planet Zoo. Like, yeah, as Elite fans, we kind of like laugh at it when we have to sit through the Unlocked and like the first 40 minutes is Planet Zoo. But I mean, they're really good builders. A lot of the other VTubers that I watch, I mean, if you guys watch HoloLive, you've probably seen them play Planet Zoo or Planet Coaster before. Like, they're genuinely good building sims. And you can definitely tell with the colonization stuff, like they have started importing a lot of those systems in a way that's kind of interesting. I really can't wait to finish this first starport so I can really kind of get in and look at how settlements are built and really kind of play around with some of the options, right? Building ships. Yeah, man. I mean, if that's what you enjoy, like I said, like, absolutely. Like, there's definitely more than a wealth of information that you're able to do that. My only issue is when people look down on others for not doing it. Yeah, I mean, min-maxing ships, I mean, that's definitely a thing. You've got a lot of options. Right now, I think one of the big things that our Discord's been doing has been trying to figure out our AFK CZ ships. You can't truly AFK like a CZ purely just because of the way they work. But they figured out, and they make a lot of money with AFK wing missions because of it. I haven't built one yet, but yeah, they built a min-maxed AFK Anaconda that you literally don't have to do anything and it will destroy a CZ for you. Like, you know, like I said, the min-maxing and the theory crafting is definitely necessary for a lot of aspects of the gameplay, because that's how we figure out how a lot of the under the hood stuff works, right? And it's like like I said, it's like that for any MMO. I think just being a space sim, it gets a little more attention here than it does in like Final Fantasy 14, where I mean, you kind of know what your best in slot is in FF14, right? WoW, you do some sims every now and then, but it's kind of the same way there too. Like, you have a general idea of what you need. But here, with it being a space sim, I think people like the numbers a lot more. That being said, we've been at it 2 hours, and I honestly didn't think that I would last this long with being as sick as I am right now. But you know, I wanted to get in here and talk a little bit about Elite. I'm gonna do this off stream for a little bit more too, because we got a long way to go. But yeah, I wanted to get in and talk about the news and see how you guys were going to be doing. Oh, well, hey, imagine that. Look at that. Perfect timing. I had no idea we were going to be doing maintenance tonight. Typed in AFK. Yeah, I do have the old disco brick for my high res AFKs. That's what we call it, the disco brick. I love that thing, man. I love that thing. Apparently the Anaconda that they built is a lot better, but I don't care. I love my disco brick. I love it. I love big. I love a ship whose entire thing is just large, right? That's its quality. Why do you have a Type 10? It's big. I do really enjoy it. But yeah, I guess maintenance is going to be happening. That means I can fit in another run real quick. Yeah, I didn't know we were going to have system maintenance here in 30 minutes. So I guess that's perfect timing for me to go ahead and kind of wind down the stream for tonight. But, you know, thanks a ton for coming in and hanging out with me while I'm not feeling the best. I'm genuinely kind of surprised that my voice has held up this long. I'm kind of scared for what work's going to look like in the morning. But yeah, you know, I'm liking colonization. I hope that they do adjust the CMM composite rates, but everything else I feel like is fairly doable. Even for these big, massive starports, I think I'll be able to finish the Oculus within a month if they can adjust the CMM rates. But I hope you guys are having fun. You know, it's nice to see people. Oh, it is Thursday, isn't it? Yeah. I guess it is. It's kind of, I guess I just now realized that It's weird that the patch came out, that the new content came out on a Wednesday. I guess that's what's throwing me off, huh? But yeah, I hope you guys are having fun getting back into the game, and I hope you're having fun with the colonization, and hopefully it won't be too much of a grind for you. Like I said, start small if you need to. If you don't have real VTuber hours that you can sit here hauling 60,000 of something on stream, right? You know, start small and work your way up. But I am really personally enjoying it. But I'm the weirdo that really likes space trucking and putting on some CCR and Steppenwolf and just vegging out for a little bit. But yeah, between maintenance and not feeling so hot, I think we're gonna go ahead and call it here for tonight. But that being said, like I said, we will be back this weekend with some more Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I don't know if it'll be tomorrow night. Like I said, I'm gonna have to keep an eye on my voice and how I'm feeling. But Saturday for sure we'll be doing it. But you know, like, subscribe, hit up the old blue skies. You can find me on there. I do put up the notices pretty far ahead of time for big content streams like that. And then yeah, we'll be doing quite a bit through the next week. So look forward to a lot of Final Fantasy, some guitar stream stuff at some point, and who knows, maybe some surprises with the model, because I finally got V-Bridger. I think I'm gonna renew my my Live 2D license this weekend, and I don't think we'll have a whole lot to show this week, but you know, just kind of looking forward to the future. We might get a little bit more expressive than we are now, so you know, look forward to that. But that being said, take care, everybody. Have a good night. Have a good maintenance downtime. May the BGFs be in your favor. May colonization be in your favor. May CMM deposits, CMM materials rain down upon you. Take care, everyone. Have a good night. Bye-bye.